Hello and welcome back to the Seven Figure Standard podcast. I'm Mykie Stiller, joined by my co-host Arash Vossoughi, and we are so happy to be with you for another episode. This week we are going to be talking about your network. So last week, if you heard the episode, Arash brought this up really briefly, and it's hard to believe we haven't done an episode on this yet. It's something that we believe so deeply in because your network can be so powerful, or it can be nothing. So Arash, let's jump right in. When did you first learn just how valuable your network can be to you?
Pretty early on. I think I remember Jim Rohn talked about it. He used to always say your network equals your net worth. So that really opened me up. What I've discovered, your network is a currency. Like who you're around is a significant currency, and your network isn't just who you know. It's the mirror of who you're becoming. I always share when I was working with my mentor, like that network that we created was so valuable to my life. Because I've always been really good. I don't know why from the beginning I was like this. It was just something that innate with me, where I followed models of people who were creating the results that I wanted to create, and I just surrendered to them, And I have always a goal to keep increasing my network. I was in Idaho a few weeks ago with a huge network of people. They're all 8 figures plus earners, but I'm very intentional about it. So, I want to show everybody how to build, upgrade, and leverage a network that really pulls them into their next level. It's so important. A lot of people, and I used to have it, so I could relate to it, have this old mentality, I'm just going to work hard. I'm going to do it myself. You're never going to create great significance doing it yourself. But what if I told you, Mike, networking is identity? It's identity work. It's not about tactics or collecting contacts. It's about aligning with people with higher standards who normalize bigger thinking. They're constantly normalizing bigger thinking. The fastest way to change your results is to change your environment. And your network is your environment. And so, last night, I was at dinner with people that I was networking. I'm constantly doing that. So it's been a priority for me for quite some time.
You said something interesting that I want you to dig in on. You said it's the mirror of who you're becoming.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
Well, we become the people we're around. So, that's what it is. Whoever's in your network is going to tell you where you're ascending, or where you're just staying the same. So, if we're the smartest person in the room, we're in trouble. I'm a beginner every day. I love learning people's models. I love learning what's working for them. I love learning how they're implementing ideas. I'm constantly going to live events. That's something I encourage all my clients to, because once you come, you're going to change your life. If anyone came to our live event in November, their life would completely change. The moment they step in that room, they're going to be around a lot of like-minded people, but they're going to leave with a blueprint. Well, that's networking, okay? But everything for me is a framework, right? So networking to me, there's 3 key components of it. Number 1, connection creates elevation. I want you to think about that, okay? Who you spend your time with elevates or limits your standards. So I want everyone to look at who they're spending the majority of their time with. When I wanted to become a millionaire years ago, I studied millionaires. I put myself in rooms where millionaires were, where world-class performers were. And that collapsed years for me. That collapsed so many years just by learning from them. And it's constant.
I think by now we have both seen people approach networking the right way and what I would say is the wrong way. Not that there's like a right or a wrong way to do anything, but we've seen people approach networking as a way to get. And then you've been in networks, you were just raving about the networking you did a week ago at a mastermind about how everyone there was about contribution. And so we talk about the mindset to go into networking and why one of contribution is so powerful.
When I network, I'm never trying to get, ever. I'm trying to learn. So you're always coming from giving if you're doing it right. So you never network to get, you network to give. Contribution makes you magnetic. Like people are drawn to it. And it builds trust faster than any self-promotion does. But the right connections are only going to be the right connections because you contributed. If you don't, if you're going there to get, they're not going to talk to you. I'm telling you, it is a very, it's a very toxic energy. And so, but the right connections multiplies your opportunities, creates joint ventures, creates referrals, creates introduction and access you could never engineer alone. So here's the truth. One collaboration or one idea can replace 5 years of grinding. So if you look at it, what are the biggest networking mistakes? Let's look at it on the other hand, okay? Trying to impress versus trying to connect. When you're trying to impress, you're not authentic, and it's going to repel people. Being transactional instead of transformational. Staying in your comfort zone instead of intentionally stretching circles. And not upgrading your standards as you grow. Those are the biggest mistake people make, okay?
And going in and wanting to talk about themselves and talk about how great they are so that someone knows about them. Talk about that too. Like, what do you do whenever you get into a new environment with new people that you want to network with?
I always just ask them about them. People love talking about themselves. Like, tell me what you're doing. Tell me, what is your idea, product, or service? And I just ask them a ton of questions. And what's working for you? I never talk about myself. Then once I ask them, then they'll ask me. It's kind of weird. You ask somebody and they don't ask you, which it happens, but not normally, So it's more like, that's what I'm saying. It's just being present with people and getting to know people and creating that deep connection, and it's so interesting what happens because people want to help good people. And so, we've got to create a playbook for people, Mike. That's what I want to do today. I want to create a real playbook for people because there may be people who are great at networking. Like my brother's a great networker. I've actually never seen a better one than him. He's like super good at it, and I watch really good networkers, but they're always great relationship builders. But my networking playbook is number one, you got to audit first. Like, who are your top 5 closest people, and are they stretching you or settling you? Anything has to start with an internal audit. And then the next step is we got to upgrade. Identify one new room, mastermind, or event where high-level conversations happen. That's why I'm so big on proximity, because proximity changed my life. And then always add value first. Find a way to serve before you ask for anything. And then follow up with intent. This is my playbook. Follow up. That's why I was telling you I had dinner last night. We were together in Idaho. Now we're together in Scottsdale. And we had dinner, and the connection just keeps growing deeper. And it's never about getting. It's about, like, my thing is, like, how can I serve? How can I help them? So ask yourself this question. Am I networking currently is a $100,000 version of me a year, $1 million version of me a year, a $10 million version of me a year? What is the version of my networking? Because I think Jim Rohn is 1,000% accurate when he said your network equals your net worth. Because, in our business, every time we network, our business grows, So it's super important.
How do you decide who it is that you want to network with or where you want to grow your network? And I want you to talk about this from the listener's perspective. Like they're looking at their current life, their current circumstances, they've got their goal. How do they decide where to start networking? Where would be most valuable for them to start networking?
I mean, I call it your circle of influence. So see where your circle of influence right now, and is that in harmony with your goal, with how you want to live, and start working from that area. I remember when I first started this, I didn't even know where to find these people, but it's so easy now. Like it's so easy with all the groups that are set up through online groups, through going to seminars. I mean, there's never been an easier time to network, ever. But you got to see where you are, and you're not going to do it. You're not going to get in these rooms unless you're serious. Like, you got to be a serious player. You got to say, like, my life means something to me. My mission means something to me. My goals mean something to me. That's why I'll spend the money on the flight to get there in that room, or I'll drive 5 hours to get in that room. I remember I was doing this event in San Francisco last year. Somebody drove 23 hours to get there. And they understood that. I was like super impressed. Like we have people who are coming to our Transform event who are coming from Israel. Like you see the people who understand the value of it, but I would look at who is your circle of influence and constantly never settle it. Keep raising it, get in the right rooms, because I promise you, it's going to ascend you so significantly.
Yeah. I think once you realize how much network can do for your life and how much richness it can bring to your life, you put more emphasis on it. I think it's really easy to sit at your house or in your room or at your office or wherever it is that you're doing your work and just put your head down and work. But when you look up and realize that it's so much more fun to do it with a network and it's so much more valuable, it kind of shifts your perspective.
Yeah, and one thing that I've always understood, everyone's busy. There's no one that's not busy. So you could get lost in being busy. But when you give yourself that time to work on your goal in your business, you're coming from it from almost like you're leaning out and able to put focus, because these networks create new models for you, new ways of thinking, new standards, new strategies. So they're super, super impactful. You're never going to measure it until you get in it, until you show up a certain way. Because there's people who I watch or go in a network, right? But they're passive. They're waiting for people to talk to them. That's not what it is. It's about collaboration. It's about contribution. So the more you contribute, the more you're going to receive. It's like I always say, the law states whatever you put out, you get back. It's just a law.
You just brought up such a good point because you said they're passive. Well, how do you want to show up? When getting to the room is not networking. Getting to the room is like maybe 50%, 40%, but then you have to show up a certain way to make it work.
You have to be interested in people. I have a great client, like Joe Graziano. He said, there's two types of people, Arash. They're either interesting or interested. The ones that are interesting are not interested in other people, And I love when he said that. So, because a lot of people love talking about themselves, but they're just going there to get. They're interesting. When you're interested, you're locked in on really understanding their story, understanding what they're doing. That's a big difference. So we always want to be interested and get to know people. Introduce yourself. That is the icebreaker for it. And people are constantly want to help you.
Well, and what you said earlier, you said follow up. You just had dinner with someone last night that you were networking with maybe a week ago. And part of that is relationship building, like organic relationship building, because the most valuable network comes from not just surface level relationships, but you truly have to care about someone, what they're building, and vice versa to create more of like a mastermind and a really valuable network.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, but you got to show up is really what it is. But most people don't understand the value of proximity. They say they do, but if they did, why aren't they in it? So think about this. So, I mean, one relationship could create a ripple effect of like 50 more relationships through other people's contacts. So you could practice leverage through networking. And so that's why I'm always interested in other people. And I'm interested in other people's story. Like, how did you start this? Like, what motivated you? You know, what were your pitfalls? Like, what have you learned? I love learning from other entrepreneurs. I love learning from people that are in a business that have nothing to do with mine, you know? Because just because the business is not the same, the creation process is the same. You could learn from their frameworks. You could learn from their leverage, right? You can learn from how they do it, who they use, who they've had great experiences with that you could use yourself.
Well, and those are things that you're not going to learn if you don't ask the questions. You just brought up a great point. Like, it's so interesting to hear like where they might have had pitfalls so that you can learn whether you're at the same place in your business or not. Those are just such great learning points. What softwares they're using, who they know, what processes they're using. There's so many different valuable aspects to those conversations once you start having them.
Yeah, I mean, I just think of us. I think what I've experienced just in a few months, like how many different networks that I've leveraged.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. I've leveraged so many networks, and we have such a connection. You know, like such a connection that goes literally hundreds of people wide through that one connection. So it's a huge opportunity. You said something interesting. I think the hardest part of it is understanding the value of it. Like when I'm telling you this, that's why I said on one of our podcasts that we should do this, because I bet you it's multiplied my life in terms of dollar amount by tens of millions of dollars. I really believe that from where I was to now. And, but you've got to get in that room. You've got to get in this. And then you're not in the room anymore. Now you're in 1,000 rooms. You know,
okay,
and
how you said that. Yes, because you're not just networking with one individual. You then have like, they have been networking with other people. They've heard different lessons. They can introduce you to other people. It's 1,000 rooms is right. It's almost like a spider web.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's all it is. And everybody there is about contribution. It's always about contribution. The reason networking doesn't work for most people, like I said earlier, is because they're going to get. You know, oh, I'm going to get these. I don't go in there thinking I'm going to get these contacts. I'm going in there thinking, I want to learn. I want to show what's working for me that I can give to people. Because for me, there is no competition. I don't hold anything back. So the more you expand your network, the better it is.
Gosh, that's so good. Okay, so for someone who might feel shy or uncomfortable or awkward, or I could come up with a lot of different adjectives, but you know where I'm getting with this, who they just haven't made the habit of networking and they don't feel comfortable networking yet, what would your advice to them be?
Get over it. Very simple. Look, you got to do hard things. You got to do hard things in a great way. Like, okay, like I used to be an introvert. I used to be shy. If I could do it, you could do it. So you have to get over it. You got to get over yourself. I mean, it might sound like kind of direct and harsh. I don't mean it that way. It's just a fact. You got to get over it. Like when your mission becomes an obsession, you do whatever it takes. The challenge for people is they want to create the results of the top 1%, but they're not willing to do the things the top 1% do. You know, and so it really is about getting honest with yourself and saying, imagine if I transform my identity in this area, what it would do. So, you know, your next breakthrough is never going to come from grinding harder, but it's going to come from who you're connected to. The right network doesn't just open doors, it pulls you into becoming the person you were meant to be. You know, so like, I highly recommend everyone get in our network because I'll leverage you significantly. Get to my live events. Sign up for Transform Live. Get in my Legacy Builder. That's an amazing network for very little cost, you know. So you've got to upgrade your network, but use our network to upgrade your network. I mean, leverage us.
And Arash, one more question for you. I think there's probably people listening to this thinking, wow, I've been approaching networking the wrong way. I have been approaching it, trying to get or not being contribution focused, not being outward focused. What would your advice to that person be? And how can they turn things around really quickly in a network that they may have not shown up their best in?
Well, if they're doing that, they've got to take a look at what they have to eliminate. Okay, because they're not just doing that in networking events, they're doing that when they're trying to sell their idea, product, or services. They're coming from what can I get? And they're not gonna do very well. So it would be, on a few episodes ago, I got really deep into future truth and like, who do you want to be and who do you not want to be? That would be under the audit of who I don't want to be. So I promise you, there's enough for everyone to go around. You don't need to go get. It will come to you naturally as you are more raw and authentic and constantly contributing. That's what it's about.
I love it. All right, let's get into an action step for today.
Well, I want you to identify what your network is right now. And is that the standard of network your goal demands? And I want you to sprint to getting in bigger environments, bigger rooms. And if you do that, you watch how much your results will change. Like Jim Rohn said, just leveraging Jim, your network equals your net worth. But don't wait on it. Like, I would really look at this today.
Perfect, Arash. Thank you so much. And if you want to really expand your network and you want to meet us in person, join us in November before we're sold out for our Transform live event happening in Dallas, Texas. If you want more information, go to vosscoachingco.com and hit events for all the details. Also, share this episode with your friends and family members or on social media, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the 7 Figure Standard podcast. Thanks, Arash.
Thanks, Mykie.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7 Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mykie and how Voss Coaching Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachingco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7 Figure Standard.